The rate at which inflation has been accelerating in the country has been a major source of concern for the Central Bank of Nigeria. As such, the bank has adopted different measures to tame the surge in inflation, which is a 17-year high of 21.47% in November. Some of the latest steps taken by the Monetary Authority to address the challenge were the redesigning of the Naira and introduction of a new cash withdrawal limit. Yet, Nigeria's inflation rate rose to 21.47% in November from 21.09% recorded in October, representing the 10th consecutive monthly increase since the start of the year. A closer look at the report shows that Nigeria's inflation rate has now risen to its highest level since September 2005, when the rate stood at 24.32%. Let's evaluate these policies by the Apex Bank with close reference to Nigeria's inflation rate, which rose to 21.47% in November from 21.09% recorded in October. My guest is Mr. Paul Alaje. He's a friend of the house. He's a partner and senior economist at SPM Professionals. Mr. Alaje, compliments of the season to you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Mr. Alaje, I want to start this way. There's been a lot of efforts being made to rein in inflation, but it seems like we are not getting a headway. The central bank has been, one way or the other, coming through, trying to see how this would happen. In your thoughts, it seems like there is more to this than it meets the eyes.
Well, from what we can see, the Central Bank of Nigeria have used multiple policies to see how to tame inflation. But because beyond endogenous factor, what is driving inflation are more of exogenous variables. This includes the war that is still going on in Ukraine, between Russia and Ukraine, which has had impact on prices of gas. It is not just money supply. And you could see the effort of the Apex Bank in recent times by saying, let us redesign Naira. Also, let us, the new policy Central Bank wants to embark on is to force withdrawal limit down in order to control inflation, so that Central Bank feels, in our own opinion and from our study, that when they make policy that affects inflation, eventually inflation will respond to the Apex Bank. So, but this is what we must know. Combating inflation will go beyond managing of MPR or whatever CRR will be. Those are rates. But we need to first understand what is inducing inflation. Is it demand pull or cost push? And to a large extent, the inflation we have now is cost push. As a manufacturer myself, I can tell you the price of gas, the price of diesel, the price of PMS, and in the last 4 days, this is the third state I will be in. And I can tell you that the average price for PMS across this state, the average is 260 Naira per litre. Unlike what is quoted and what government had mentioned earlier in the year as a review rate. So when the MBS is posting the inflation rate, inflation figure, I beg your pardon, for the month of December, it will also reflect. So Central Bank, we need to now work, or the other agencies of government, we also need to partner with Central Bank, or agencies of government should converge and see that it is not just monetary solution that will take us out of the current pressure that inflation is mounting on our nation.
So what more can be done to address this, even considering the fact that we have a developmental plan that we're supposed to follow through? With all of these challenges, both global and domestic issues, do you see them achievable? Can we get that sort of inclusive growth that we need as a country?
40% of inflation, when you trace them, they are traceable to imported pressure, import inflation, 40%. Then we also have another 30 to 40% coming from domestic reason because of food supply. When you even look at the inflation figure, you see that food inflation also has significant amount, about half, almost half of the entire inflation. Food inflation is responsible for it. So if you want to build a house, don't just start by buying the roofing sheet, except if you want to exercise some other things that a religious cycle. But if you want to build a house, you must first have a plan and understand what you want to put first. For us, as economists, we feel that authorities must analyze carefully what is the cause of inflation. National Bureau of Statistics have released numbers, and we need to sit down with the numbers. We have also understood that cost push, imported inflation are the major factors. So what do we do? How do we support manufacturers in Nigeria? Because from the reports released by National Bureau of Statistics, 80% of our imports are finished products, aka PMS, aka diesel, and so on and so forth. Purchase of laptops, etc., etc., even used cars running into billions. How do we support local manufacturing? And this solution is not what central bank can do by controlling money supply. No, it is trade authority, among the three key authorities that have some responsibility to play in the economy. The trade authority must work with different other authorities. This may include central bank to support or make finance. The Ministry of Power must ensure we have reasonable power, not just for homes, but for our productive sector. It is very important. We can also make policy to see, it may not be a short term, it could be medium, it could be long term. Some of the people we are buying vehicles from, especially new vehicles, can they have some sort of assembling plants in Nigeria so that in the future, you recall that 2007, there was global economic quagmire. We saw same in 2016, 2015, 16, up to 17, and we saw another one when COVID happened. We are seeing war between Russia and Ukraine. Next year, there are a lot of forecasts, a lot of projection of what could be good, what could be bad, and what will appear ugly. The challenge we have is that those in authority might not, just might not, be looking at the end of 2023, now that we are in December 2022. They may eventually wonder what has happened by the time we get to the end of 2023. So going back to inflation, we could also, in the medium term, solve issues around insecurity, issues around logistics, a bad road, unsecure road, which is making food relatively scarce for people to consume. In January, I made a forecast when I was speaking with you that a bag of rice will likely be 40,000 naira. That forecast has happened, even though I feel sad about it. As at the time we spoke, a bag of rice was 25,000. As we speak now, in most places, you buy rice between 38 to 51,000 naira. How will a bag of rice not be 60,000 naira by 2023 December? If authorities don't solve key issues around supply chain, key issues around insecurity, and also solving major issues around logistics. I must be very sincere with you. We can just be driving the same train, hoping that someday we'll get to our bus stop.
Very important issue raised there, logistics. Mr. Laje, it's Christmas season, of course, festivities, and inflation naturally should stay on the high side because we should expect a lot of spending and all of that at this time. But considering the purchasing power of Nigerians, you are an economist. What really would play out around this space, meaning what it means for the economy?
Well, with the low purchasing power, people are still going to buy anyways, not because they want to buy or they don't want to buy, but during Christmas festive season, and as you know, we have Christmas, you have New Year, people want to make themselves happy. So there are some sectors that may not be as active as you will see them, recreation, different areas. People want to just make themselves happy. People have worked. And there is that popular song, that trended earlier this year. And if I can just mind part of it, that you have worked, you have tried, you're supposed to be quote and unquote, jaye jaye. This is the December time that people feel that they have the opportunity to go out. Now, how much can they buy? Will it be as much as they bought last year? With their 200,000 naira month, 50,000 naira month, buy as much as they bought. That's a different kettle of fish. So, but will people want to go out? Will December attract people to spend more? The answer is yes. And when you watch, you are in Lagos, I'm in Port Harcourt. The traffic in Lagos has since increased from the first day of December. And this may be the same towards the end of December. Why? Because everybody is on last minute rush.
Last minute rush, indeed. Now, back to the issue that befalls or bedevils us as a country. One of the major ones is unemployment, which remains on the high side. Let's talk about job creation now and inclusiveness. What areas should we be looking at this time? What kind of conversation should we be having around that, particularly as presidential candidates? Give us their manifestos, let us know their agenda and plans for Nigerians. Job creation, inclusiveness, what can be done?
Economy is interconnected. If we make power to be relatively constant, to improve what we have to do from what we are consuming, because what you generate does not really show how much power gets to household. It is what is distributed and consumed and paid for is what matters more. So if we say that we increase what we have now from 3,500, 4,000, so a significant amount of about 10 to 15,000 megawatts. I can tell you that the number posted by the National Bureau of Statistics will reduce by not less than 2/3. This is because many people will find it cheaper. And also, by 7 p.m., most people in Nigeria believe that it's time to go to bed. Maybe not to go to bed, to retire home and so on and so forth. Meanwhile, most cities around the world, they are just starting life by 7 p.m. to around 12. Malls will still be open and so on and so forth, which means people are not going to have two shifts because they know that there will be security, economy is still open, activities is still running, unlike what we believe in Nigeria. So then you are going to see a lot of growth even within our industry, because the cost of buying diesel for industry to work, if you put that on the price of commodity, people have options. They will compare what we are producing locally to if they import. If the gap is not significant because of belief, because of taste, people may eventually go for foreign products as against the one that is produced in Nigeria. It is not because foreign product is particularly spectacular, though, but the people we buy, especially when cost is telling them that it's a better option for them to purchase such commodity. So as the year is running to an end gradually, then we need to now start looking at what are the opportunities that we have. I have said on your show before that we have about 40 million pupils. 40 million pupils around January, and now we are in December. If the figure remains the same, and throughout next year, there may still be 40 million pupils and more. You know the difference? We will still import over 80% of their school uniform from China, from India, from UK. And if you go to some schools, you see that the owner of the schools or administrator in the school, they take pride in saying the school uniform for your child will be coming from the United Kingdom. I understand that we have tailors who can sew locally, but I'm saying that do we have secure over 15,000 jobs? The former governor of Edo State came from textile sector, and we saw how active he was even when he was in labor and politics, and how active he is now. The painful thing is that sector has more or less become more important. Do we support the sector to have a revival of some sort so that 15,000 jobs? Kaduna before now, in 1958, was known as the headquarters in the entire West Africa. Today, when you go to the facility, it's a museum of some sort. How do we revive this in Kaduna State so that the insecurity we have in Kaduna, people can have options of working? The truth is, you notice all I've mentioned works around manufacturing production. It is not that services are not there. It is not that agriculture is not there. But when you take example all around the world, Germany has large farms, but what you know Germany for is not German farms, it's German machine, German industry. The same with America. America even gives subsidy to cotton farmers. But what do you know America for? Technology, manufacturing. China has a lot of land, more than 5, I'm not sure if it's up to 15, but certainly more than 3 to 5 in the size of what Nigeria has. At least I'm sure of 3 is more than that. But why is China not known for farming? Why is China known for production? And if you check, also Russia, what Russia is focusing on is production. You have seen even the West versus the East trade war because of this ongoing war. Now, what is the point here? The largest country in different continents, they look beyond agriculture and they don't settle just for service. They understand that to get their people involved in productive employment, they have to increase manufacturing components to between 40 to 50% of the GDP. What we have in Nigeria is less than 30% of the GDP. And if I say 30%, I'm just being charitable. In the real sense of it, manufacturing is less than 20% of the GDP. But when you say agriculture takes about 20%, you say oil takes about 10%. The question is, what is manufacturing taking in the component of our GDP? We must deliberately, either through government, fiscal authority, trade authority, monetary policy makers, we must deliberately drive manufacturing for whatever number it is. So out of our GDP, that is, of all the economic activity, one must be manufacturing and production, the other can be agriculture, it can be oil production, it can be any other thing. But we must drive manufacturing for jobs to be sustainable. And if that happens, people may want to know the benefit. I can tell you, there will be more, starting with television. There will be a lot of people coming to advertise because they want people to know that they now have competition. I mean, there are now competitors to what they used to know. And you will see a lot of prices will crash, supply side would increase. We will not have pressure with inflation, jobs will be created. And what you see, there is a foundation for all of it. The first thing the creator, from my favorite book said, the first thing he created is light. We are people in power, and we don't have power for the people. It's unfortunate. How do we guarantee power? And I've listened to a lot of candidates from different political parties. You know, at least I followed about 6 political parties. And if you want to call it 3 major political parties or 4 major political parties, but I follow all these candidates. And I can tell you, they have not been able to carefully mention how they will generate power. I've seen some say, one has mentioned is going to do production, is going to move from consumption to production. The question is, production requires a fundamental power. How would you generate power? I've also seen some that say it's going to privatize and it's going to privatize as much as possible. But what he has not mentioned is, how would you create foundation? And I've also seen some that said, if we do everything to ensure Nigeria grows, we put smile on people's face, if we're going to get more money to put into development of Nigeria. The question is, there is no development without power. How would you improve power supply? And they have to give us numbers, Mr. Tolu. Numbers must be added to this. Don't tell us that we are going to have power, because if you increase it by just 5 megawatts, you have increased. We are saying, can you move power consumption? And for power to be consumed, it must have been produced, it must have been generated, it must have been transmitted, it must have been distributed. And power consumption should grow from what we are having and from reports of about 3,000 to 4,000 to not less than 10,000 and maybe peak at 15,000. And this power, more than 2/3 of the power to be generated or to be provided, must go into productive sector. If they have not said this, if they have not done this, if any of the team have not, any of the presidential aspirant and candidates now have not carefully mentioned or articulated how this power will be available, I tell you, we're in a long run for another long job for another 4 years. And I don't see development without power. All the countries, you are well traveled. And for people that may be listening or watching this program that have traveled, mention one country or a place you want to go to spend your holidays, because we are losing billions of dollars because we don't have a good tourist centers or places where people can come. I've seen government wants to build a tower in Abuja for the purpose of tourism. But the question is, which hotel are they going to stay? Which road are they going to use when they come? So, you see, economy is interrelated. You cannot want to do A without leaving the foundation. The foundation is power, the foundation is energy, the foundation is growth. And if we don't do that, I'm afraid, then finally, a lot also has to be done so that we don't keep putting pressure on central bank. Unfortunately, we say Emefiele cannot print the dollar. There is nothing he does. There is no policy he makes that will print the dollar. Mr. Emefiele, we have to concentrate on local currency, while Ministry of Trade and Investment, we must support local businesses and government by extension, so that we can also start to export some of our ideas to the rest of the world to buy. Even if it's agro household, even if it is crude oil, even if it's processed or refined oil, or gas that we want to export. The question is, time is running out on us as a people. Our FX reserve is dwindling. What must we do to improve it to $200 billion, which is the minimum guarantee level we should be as a nation, for us not to be having fluctuation? You see, there are countries that with all that is going on with war, their currency have remained stable. Most countries that have had unstable currency, even though it happens to some countries in the West, but it's majorly African countries, check them. Their foreign reserve is not up to $200 billion. And I'm referring to African countries. I'm not talking of other countries. Because of the size of the economy. So how do we grow to $200 billion so that we can say that we have found a rest, even if there will be economic distortion for a short term of 3 months, 6 months, or 1 year, but my economy will not be severely battered?
Interesting conversation. We can go on, and 1 hour wouldn't even be enough for us to complete all of this that has to do with Nigeria's economy. But I must thank you so much, partner senior economist at the SPM Professionals there, Mr. Paul Alaje. Thank you so much for your contributions on the program. As usual, we really do appreciate this.
Thank you so much for having me.